Right. So obviously I'll cover a bit of structure on this anyway because it's quite nice to actually view anyway. So just because I had a couple of messages about structure in the week as well. So I will. So from a structure perspective, we if we pick a point, obviously that the highest of highs over here up here is because you could class all of this as maybe as a single push on the daily or 4 hour because there's no real sort of pullbacks up until we get maybe this is a whole push up, this is a retracement, this is a new high. So 4 hour, would definitely say we obtain bearish. So the overall high, and then we get a pull the back. Obviously breaks the previous low. I'll put drawings back on soon. I've got that many drawings that I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll open another Bitcoin feed. Does anyone use any of these ones? And I'll use that one for
Use
my.
Coinbase.
That's what we're on,
I
is it?
thought,
Fine.
yeah, I thought you used Coinbase, so that's what I use.
I use
Oh yeah, I do use Coinbase.
Yeah,
I
I like
use
Coinbase. Yeah.
BTC USDT. I think
Oh,
we
okay. Who's
I
it
think
from?
oh gosh, hang on. I
It'll be
remember
slightly different.
we all spoke about it quite a while ago. That's Binance.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it looks about the same feed anyway, doesn't it? It's not.
It's going to zero, lads.
It
This is
could,
it. This is the moment. We saw it go. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, from a structure perspective, we've had obviously a big pull up from somewhere up here down there. It's created this high there. Um, we've had a pullback, created a new high, and then obviously we have pulled back, created a new lower low to that point there. So obviously from this point it's pulled back. It's obviously created liquidity somewhere in here and then come back and mitigated this order block in here. This will be like an odd mark. I'll probably see I think I've actually got that marked as well. Pretty relevant to structure, but obviously as it's pulled back, as it's started heading downwards, obviously it's started to mitigate areas to the upside for continuations down. Um, so one of the rules for structure is obviously if we look at it purely from a bearish perspective, we're now looking for obviously the highs that are created that create a low, and then we are looking for a pullback. So from what I would class as a pullback from here is the highest point. So after this candle, after that low there, I'm looking for the highest point, which is this here, that high there, before it retakes the low again. So we've got, so that's the highest point before the low's taken again. Obviously, low's taken here with this one here, and obviously that's the low I'm looking to be taken. Don't want that. I hate that paintbrush setting. Fucking crap. Awful to use. So yeah, highest point before this low's taken, which is this one. Body closes and wicks below. So happy with that. That the wick below counting and not counting might come into consideration on a smaller time frame, which I'll get to in a minute. But the same again, obviously, because I'm looking at bearish structures now. Again, it would be the next swing high and low would be obviously again it would be the highest point before. obviously, so this is the highest point before the lows break again. So that was the most recent low, and this is obviously where it's taken. So if we are to stay on a 4 hour, possible 4 hour, well, it don't really matter if it's 4 or daily. Structure's probably the same on them both. But from there, obviously, this sort of being our high,
Right, you
lower.
like
Pardon?
you clean the kitchen, yeah? Don't leave it like that.
I was glitching out. Yeah, with this being obviously the most recent lower high, obviously in a downtrending market, so we would be hoping to respect something up in this price action here. So we've made a new low, we're pulling back possibly, and then we would sort of hope that we're going to get that maybe a break below here, and then a mitigation of something that's created in this on the push down. And then obviously we would maybe look to try and catch a sell for a new lower low. Obviously, that would be a major hold. So I wouldn't always advise to actually hold that long because you could be in mega profits at that point. But from a structure perspective, we are heading downwards. But that's not to say that this isn't going to take the high and then start making bullish structures. So I'll draw that out as a actual structure. So continuing from this line here, obviously, all we are just going to connect these dots up here, that to there. Lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. And we, like I say, we are, because we're becoming so high in this, because this is still the live range. So obviously we've had a high, we've made a new low, so, and will likely be my 15-minute structure. But I'm going to stay on I'll do it on the 2 hour because I can fit it, I'll do it on the 4, just so I can fit it all on my screen. Yeah, it's better. So structure on this, my 15-minute structure would be, obviously I'm going to ignore all this because it's sort of not relevant for, because I'm looking at the current price action. So we've got the lowest low on this leg, obviously. It then takes a 15-minute high here, which is that, creates pullback. This is the live range until obviously the high and or low is taken, takes the high here, pulls back. Obviously, the same again, takes the high. Obviously, you would move these highs and lows along as they're broken and or not broken. So again, we create another high, it takes the high, pulls back. Obviously, it doesn't take the low. This is the lowest point after the high is taken. So it's pulled back to the lowest point. So you can't always mark the low. So this low that I'm about to draw, you can't always draw that until this high is retaken again. So I often say on previous lives is what happens next is what determines this range here. So I couldn't draw this line on here until this price has taken this high. This confirms this is the low. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't say you were glitching. I was telling my daughter to clean the kitchen.
I was panicking. I was like, fucking laptop.
I thought I turned my mic off, but I hadn't. I said, Evelyn, Evelyn, clean the kitchen. Not Lee, you're glitching.
Yeah, that was dead funny.
She ignored me, mate.
Right.
Dad,
So,
all right, Dad, all right.
yeah. I didn't hear the attitude back, mate. So it was. So yeah, the taking the high confirms the pullback as such. So obviously you've got a high created there, and then we actually break the previous structure low that's confirmed by this push up. So we have at this point, I'm going to turn this blue. No, I'm going to turn it orange. So 15-minute structure up, trending upwards. We get a break between on this low. So this is our break of structure there, or change of character, whatever you want to call it. Same thing. So now that we've had a break of structure, on this, obviously if this was live as we was following, I know there's price to the left and it's easy to spot afterwards. We have the obviously what is created, and once it creates a new low, and obviously this is a fair sign of continuing to the downside because obviously the higher time frame is bearish. So at this point, I'll replay it. So 4 hours down, obviously as you can see, because we've got bigger structures forming here. This point, once this one breaks here, I'll draw that as well. So obviously you can see it's downtrending from here. From this point here, the 15 minutes told us it's going bullish because it's a break to the upside on the 15-minute on a small, obviously it's still overall 4 hour down because the structures are bigger. This stat there confirmed that we are trending upwards until again the 15-minute would take the previous low, which happens here. So break to the upside, we're effectively looking for buys somewhere in this. Obviously, we wouldn't be, if we could catch buys up in the top quarter of this, ideal, which I believe it probably does. So mark it from the high to the low. Going from this low here, just shy of the top quarter. But obviously, if you was to look in, that be something in there that it's tapped in, probably takes liquidity somewhere, fills an imbalance. But generally, top 25% is what I'm ideally looking for the bigger holds, because there's no point in trying to sell from this. I consider this middle 50% a pretty dangerous zone, because obviously you can see it continues trending upwards and it could turn from any point, but the higher in this without it looking to take the overall high is obviously a better zone. So if the last bit of imbalance is here, obviously it's taking liquidity and things like that, then obviously that's the area to do it from. But structure wise, because it's broken this low at this point here, so this is the candle, this big red candle here is what causes the 15-minute to tell us that it's maybe turning bearish again. So at that point, we've got, let's turn that red. Add text. So 4 hour bearish, and at this point here, it's telling us that the 15 minutes possibly bearish, and then obviously if we can get the 1 minute effectively comes back up and to mitigate something in here by the looks of it. I think it was again top 25% of this overall leg when it creates it. So when this is basically along the lines of my 4, 15 and 1. So obviously we've got 4 hour, the red line is the 4 hour, the orange is 15. If we could then get price to come back somewhere up in this, obviously the 15-minute break, and get the 1 minute to line up and we get a 1 minute entry off that, then effectively we are possibly catching big moves, and that's like I say, that's basically 4, 15 and 1. I'll continue drawing the structures. Obviously this doesn't take the high, so top 25%. I'd have been looking for something to be mitigated in there, and then yeah, obviously I'm hoping that we'll maybe get that somewhere in this on what I posted yesterday on about Bitcoin. So we get a good 1 minute break structure in this. So I know this is I'm still on the 4, but effectively if I can get something like that, take that low, come back, mitigate something up in here, and then possibly catch a absolute banger of a trade, because then we've got all three time frames lining up at the top of a range. So, like I say, if this does follow the structure and doesn't decides not to take these highs, then we've got multiple time frames running in the same direction, high up in this live leg here, because obviously this is our live leg from this high to this low. This is our current working price, live price. So this low is obviously valid until it's taken, and obviously being taken would confirm whatever it creates up here as the lower high. So, but we are hoping it's not there yet, so there's nothing to actually. Oh, still drawing. Get off. Is it frozen? Can you guys still hear me? So yeah, we've obviously with the continuation of 15, obviously as you can see here, we've got a pullback there. And now I think that's the structure there. I think that's 15. There was. I don't think it's different on this one. Yeah, no, this is what I was struggling with my 15-minute when I posted it yesterday. So that one there. Just bear with me a sec, guys, while I draw it out. So I was unsure on the 15-minute structure on this. So I was unsure if this whole leg was 15-minute or if this or if it was this, sorry. We could have well had from this high here, wicks down just below there. Obviously, this is the highest pullback before it then breaks the possible low again. The reason I'm unsure is because technically its price has passed the line, the wick low here, but there's no body close below it. So it's all depends on how you view your structures. I used to be body close, whereas now I'm more along the lines of as long as it passes through. But this could well be a liquidity sweep, so I'm undecided on the actual 15-minute at this point here. So, but from like a higher time frame perspective, this area is still the overall high. So this is the one I'm looking to not be broken. That's the high I'm not looking to be broken anyway. So yeah, structure is very tricky. I'll just recap a couple of rules as so. If obviously in a trending market, come back over here, it's a bit cleaner maybe. So obviously this is a low, this is a high. It's the furthest pullback point of price of pullback before then the high is retaken. So creates a high, obviously takes this previous high. This is the low until this is the low once this candle closes above this one or wicks above it, depending on, like, say, if you're body close or just passing through. Price to be classed as an actual pullback, or pullback, definitely pullback. It has to be at least a prolonged period of price action. Obviously, so we're on the 2 hour here, but obviously I'm looking at, this is my 15. So I'll drop to it essentially. So either a prolonged period of price action that's clearly sort of heading in. Obviously, if it's pullback, we're trying to measure it's pulling back, it's slow and bit exhaustive and bit sideways, but it is sort of making even lower time frame bearish structures. So we're sort of seeing lower highs, lower lows, apart from when something happens there, whatever that is. But we do see bearish structures. These would be classed as my, say, 1 minutes. Or would be that until this happened. So then from there we start getting more. Obviously, green is why my 1 minute stuff, so that's why I'm changing things to the relevant colors. Yeah, so again, obviously we would be, obviously, because the 1 minutes, what I've just got done with the 15 against the red, so the orange versus the red, obviously we can use the 1 minute against the 15 as well. It's the same process. We would, if we was looking for, obviously, if we was looking for sells around here and we was 15 minute bullish, obviously because we're broken up here, but then when we start seeing 1 minute bearish structures, we could then obviously wait until we get breaks above on the 1 minute. So let's say that's the high. So at that point there, obviously is a break, and then obviously it does a little pullback. So if we can, let's say we catch the buy from somewhere in that, obviously there might be something down lower, but obviously this is the point it turns, the 1 minute turns bullish, like turns bullish, pulls back, mitigates something, and then we continue higher. And then obviously it turns bearish again shortly after. Back here again, but then I think we turn bullish again. So obviously the 1 minute's going to turn more often than the 15. So there's 7 or 8 highs and lows in this 15-minute leg, and obviously the 15 does it 5 or 6 times in the 4-hour leg. And as we start to see, as I zoom out and change the time frame, the 1 starts to disappear slightly, but the 15 is visible. And the same would be on with the 15 if I went to like the daily or something. So you can't really even make the one out on the daily. So it looks a mess now, but was that helpful, guys? Any questions about
Yeah.
structure?
No, seeing it better nowadays.
Yeah, you're
Mhm.
improving definitely, mate.
Yeah, I still pay more attention to trend lines and sweeps,
Yeah,
but I can see the structure. Yeah,
yeah,
and I like most of us. I'm watching that blue box you got there for a sell, and it's good to
yeah,
know that it lines up with
yeah,
everything's lining up. So fingers crossed. Yeah,
yeah.
we'll
Absolutely,
see.
mate. Yeah, yeah. But like I say, we've got trend lines marked that possibly show it to target going lower somewhere. See, it's on my other feed, but
Yeah, I've got something like that as well. Yeah, yeah, that's right. It goes back from
I think it's something like that. Maybe.
November
Obviously,
24th. That's it.
yeah,
You've got it. Yeah, I've got it too. I've got the same one as that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think
I've got mine finishing on the 7th. They're not on the 9th.
yeah,
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 no, that
yeah.
work.
That's
That
right. Yeah,
works.
yeah.
That's it. I've got that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's right.
and you got you. Although your second touch isn't perfect, if you zoom into the origin and actually um do it down to the 10 minute, that
Yeah.
moves it enough to make that second touch perfect.
Well, okay. It's good to know. I think this is. I'm sure
Doesn't
on.
mine.
I
You're on Binance though. Yeah,
Yeah, Binance. So I know on my main feed that I use, it's. I'm sure that's a good touch, but
yeah,
I'd have to check the
yeah.
lowers. But yeah,
Doesn't matter.
I know I'm dead. I'm dead like picky about my trend lines. I suppose I'm only really picky when I'm actually trying to get into a sell. So if I can get a sell from up here, if that was slightly off, I would consider that a good target,
Mhm.
which is, I suppose it's quite weird, but um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, I'd consider it a an okay target, but not maybe not a good point to actually try and use as a point to
Yeah,
get
fair
in.
enough.
Obviously, getting a buy, obviously. So obviously, if it was a bang on trend line, price could sell off from up here somewhere. It could take this liquidity and fill something in here, and then do what it wants. It might come back, I don't know, 78% of this leg that it creates and do that or whatever. But yeah, I'd view it. I would view it even if it was a bit rubbish. Like I say, I would class it as a good target. But yeah, I suppose I need to think a bit about that as to why I would think that. But
My origin is slightly to the left of yours. Yeah, you move it somewhere like there or somewhere like that,
yeah,
and
I'm sure on the other feed
it's
it's
spot
pretty
on
good. Yeah,
Coinbase. Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
was like that.
Blundell's dodgy feeds.
Yeah.
You don't want them.
It's probably that one there, mate. I bet you can see that
Yeah,
on like the 15 or
yeah,
2 hour or something.
yeah.
Yeah, check that out. Not that it matters because I've got it on my other feed and I know it's better. Yeah, there's a low there. There's a gap there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, another one. It's good to know it's on there on multiple feeds then, to be fair. Happy about that.
Yeah.
Good touch. Just check that touch out actually. Just get that one on tight. Yeah, bang on 5 minute. I'm happy with that. Just past it, but it's a distance, so I'm not bothered. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Really happy with that trend line. So yeah, we've got targets anyway. If we can catch a sell, and then after that, obviously it'll be a case of analyze all this sort of area to see if I think it would maybe turn bullish from. But yeah, sells are definitely structure wise anyway. Sells are definitely the better option, I think, coming up anyway. But again, like I say, it's a structure thing. So I suppose that's why maybe the 15 minute was important. Do you know when you're saying about where is it? If I'd class this as a obviously this one wicks below this one here, but doesn't body close. if this is if that's a valid pullback there, and that is the new low in the if that's a break below here, this one here, and then that's a pullback. If that is the structure, and this is obviously a new high, low, new high, then we have possibly had a break to the fifth on the 15 as well, because then that would mean that we've had break up here. So yeah, a bit annoying that the uncertainty on that because it's a shame, but obviously the markets are never perfect. They're never going to make it easy for us. So
Well, if it's going up to that liquidity, it's got to get up there somehow.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
it's
yeah,
but what can
yeah,
you do? It's you. Yeah, you can't have everything.
yeah. Obviously, it's never going to be so easy that you're just going to, oh, it's so
Yeah,
like they're not going to make it easy for it to go.
no, it's got to
You
go
know,
up there somehow. So it's got to
if
break
that one
structure to the
there,
upside for a
if
bit.
that was just something
Yeah,
like that, then you'd be like, oh, definitely, yeah, this is the area. But this will be thrown in to make everybody think that obviously this is now a breaker structure to the upside, and buys are on
yeah,
just before it might sell off. Do you know?
yeah,
So yeah, could be a trap. Like I said, I'm unsure, but I'm happy that this is the 4 hour structure high point up here. So this is my main point. I'm looking for it not to be broken. So
yeah.
the 15 don't really matter at that point, I suppose, because the higher the structure, the bigger the structure, the more weight it's got behind it. So like obviously because like I say the 1 minute changes more than the 15 and the 15 changes more than the 4. So the higher, the more overall, the better. So yeah, this sort of area, crucial point on Bitcoin. And again, like I say, there's good targets below.
Yeah,
I don't really see much to the upside for targets. I don't think it's quite nice having a cleanish chart. To be fair,
isn't it? Yeah, that does work. Got that one.
yeah,
If you take it to that high there,
and
yeah, that does work.
yeah,
Mine's neater than that.
yeah,
Where's your
yeah.
top? I think
Let
yeah,
me,
my top. I think I've got a different origin to you. Mine goes back to 24th of February. It's a different feed. I keep forgetting it's a different feed.
yeah, it could well be. What is that? No, definitely not that. Mm.
Yeah, it's somewhere in that consolidation zone. A little bit
Yeah,
to the left that I've got it. I messed it about until I could get something that had a clear
yeah.
retracement, and it did.
Because that could even be.
And that'll be swept before we get into the point of interest that we're watching to
Yeah,
extend it down.
yeah. Stick it on that. Yeah, yeah. It sweeps it anyway. However we draw it, done it. So yeah, obviously this
Yeah,
being a
mine's
sweep.
slightly different, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it also there's another trend line in here as well. So it takes multiple trend lines anyway, and then
Yeah,
obviously it's caused a break to the downside However, the 15-minute is it's the actual cause possibly.
Yeah.
This obviously also could be the cause because obviously it might be this section here, but there's no question that this is a 15-minute low and it eventually gets taken by this. So yeah, very prominent area. I'd love to see. I'd love to see another build up of liquidity somewhere, maybe from say this high, something like in there. Maybe see another touch in here like that. Pull back, sweep, break below this. What this one here? I'd love to see that. I suppose that'd be the dream. If it was that easy. But yeah, prominent area. I'll move away from Bitcoin now. If anyone has anything else want me to look at, because I spent a bit of time on that. Shall I? Do you want anyone? Shall I cover points of interest? Reasons why we would.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've got nothing particularly to ask you from my side. So,
Yeah, there's a couple of lads, other lads, and I wondered if they had anything. Um, uh, pick a random pair. Or NZD. Let's try that one. So this looks pretty dreadful. So reasons why we would mark an area. Obviously, we mark order blocks, supply and demand zones, and things like that. Obviously, it all depends how you mark them yourself and what you believe to be the right way to mark it. So some people would mark. I always go from the imbalance created. So if I was looking for a 4 hour point of interest, I would mark from the start of the imbalance. Obviously, the imbalance is there before price comes back, and then I generally go to the wick high of the obviously little pullback in here. Some people would go. Some people would go the last up candle. So obviously this is a green candle. Some would mark that, and I think they're about the only two ways I could see on this sort of setup anyway. Obviously there's classes of bankers candle as well. But yeah, and I always say that it can happen anywhere from obviously the overall pullback to the creating imbalance, which obviously it does here. So this zone here is possibly responsible for obviously there's this. I'm going to mark that trend line up to see if it's relevant, but that zone here, obviously there's a big push away from this, and it eventually takes. This is a major structure swing here. So higher time frame structure, we've got a low, high, higher low, high, high. So this is 4 hour daily low here. So somewhere around there. Obviously, it eventually leads to that being taken from this direct push up here. So it's possibly come back, mitigated something in here, and is possibly the reason why it's hit that area and then continued to the downside. Whether it holds or not, obviously, is another story. I'm just trying to obviously point out reasons why we would say it would maybe be a good area to mark. So taking of major structure highs and lows, obviously depending on which way the market's going. This has obviously been bullish for all this time, and then on a higher time frame. So as I said earlier, this is the valid low until it's taken again. Obviously, unless it pulls back and then creates a new high, which it hasn't. So structure wise, and I'm back to structure again, but it's very relevant. Just trying to show you the. So it creates a new high, takes that, which cements that as the overall range low. And then eventually we have taken the low again. So breaks that. It's also possibly responsible for taking maybe this trend line here. I'm not sure, to be honest. I think that's market open as well, so I don't even know if that's that. But it's more than likely responsible for taking something. Another trend line. And then just extend that. Obviously, if I was to claim that it was responsible for all this, was taking the liquidity, I would say you'd have to maybe drop to a bit of a lower time frame just to see what actually takes it. And I don't think it is. So it happens before the pullback and then breaks. So I'm not going to claim that that was responsible for that. Did that make sense, Matt? Or anyone? No, silence. See if I can find some liquidity. I'm sure it would have touched some of it. So I'm happy. I'd be happy with that touch. Class it as that. Just if we can get it to line up with anything else. Not quite. I'd be happy with that. Turn as a red, so see a bit better. Still too high. No, way off now. Let's put it off as a bad job. Yeah, I'll put it off as a bad job. But anyway, it takes a major structure low anyway. That's probably the main reason why it's done it. And like I say, I'm sure it would have taken more liquidity somewhere else. Just haven't seen it. A trend line of some sorts. And then obviously it's continued down. Other obviously major structure lows, trend lines. Obviously what we've got here, and then equal highs and lows as well. What I would class as liquidity. So I would always say that your supply zone, demand zones, bankers, candles, um, anything like that, have to have taken some form of liquidity, which makes them more relevant, and obviously why you would mark them. So you wouldn't want to just go and mark, say, any order blocks and things like that, because if they don't take anything, then yeah, you would certainly be taking far more losses, and it possibly saves you marking, spending more time marking charts as well. So obviously trend lines often enough stand out to me, and obviously structure does as well. It's been doing it a while. Um, they're relatively quick to spot. So obviously if I'd have been looking at this and I'd noticed that it had taken a major low last week, I could have just gone, yes, there's a nice impulsive move away from this area here. Can I look to trade out of this zone here? So take that off. And then from there, I'd be saying, can we if we can get liquidity take if this push up into the zone can take liquidity, then that's a massive little bonus, and we possibly get something like that. So pretty close. I suppose I'm pretty happy with that. So trend line there, just about sweeps it. So after I would class this as the 1 minute low at that point. So creates liquidity. After it sweeps it, just about get a breaker structure. There's a downside here, so change the character there, breaker structure, whatever you want to call it, and then it eventually, obviously, just after it breaks, it is the highest pullback. So obviously, in hindsight, you could just say that that's probably the entry there. Probably get another couple of stabs at it as well. By the looks of it, obviously, with this pulling back up and tapping into something. But yeah, obviously, after it takes liquidity and breaks to the downside, we this is the point at which we would look for an entry. So if you had a late on it, that obviously late would have gone off pretty much at this point, at that point there. So then after that, it's just obviously that's when I would say go find an entry, which obviously it taps into something in there. No idea what. No, I'm not going to get into that because that is messy and I don't know. But yeah, obviously, as you see, anyway, it taps into that. It might still well come for something higher, I guess. That might be on the cards. So, yeah, let's come up to here later on. So spread out. Yeah, I don't know. So obviously we've got spread hour from this price action here. So I don't know if I'd be looking to sell from there. Uh, so if I draw a box from that spread hour price action there. So which is why this might well have come and reacted from this sort of area here because this all looks relatively balanced at a glance on the 15 second at least. So imbalance filled, filled. Not sure that counts. Looks relatively balanced. And obviously I've deleted it there. So yeah, that's possibly why it's reacted for what it did. even just as a 5 minute area. I mean, I suppose that's worth pointing out is that I'm when I'm starting to look for my entries, the 5 minute order block is generally a good place to start. So obviously this is obviously a decent push away, so imbalance is what causes the breaker structure as well. Comes back. I'm seeing it a lot at the minute. So obviously a lot of the time at the minute it's not filling the imbalance, which is what it was doing pretty much all the time last year. Now it's possibly doing it from a breaker block or mitigating something that I've not quite figured out yet. There is still imbalance fill trades that are happening just as equally as the breaker block sort of things. I just haven't learned to spot the breaker block stuff yet. But yeah, the 5 minutes, the 5 minute is a good indication of maybe where to start looking, and then break it down from there. And if you can get it tighter, then you do so, obviously. Get lows there. Obviously, this is the 5 minute zone mark, so obviously that's responsible for this liquidity being taken. It breaks the low. It tells it wants to maybe go down. Yeah, yeah, good place to start. 5 minute. Like I say, this is spread out, so I'm not keen on looking up here. I'm not saying it's not either, but FXCM feeds I tend to ignore the spread out price action. So let's see what we could have got just off the 5 minute order block entry. Like I say this is given all the confirmation. So structure wise, it's breaking to the downside. It's taken. This was responsible. The reason for the POI was that it took liquidity and caused a major break structure. We've had a build up of liquidity, which is going to get swept slightly, and we've had a lower time frame, so 1 minute break to the downside, and then we're just like I say, we're looking for it to mitigate an entry zone, which would ideally fill an imbalance, and then obviously it's been selling up and doing its sort of thing from there. Not that bad an entry on it, 6 pips. Not turn our noses up at it. It goes for 30-fold-ish. So definitely not worth turning your nose up at. Message. Yeah, no worries, Matt. Cheers, mate. Bye. I'm going to call it there right away. Yeah, I can hear you, mate. You're all right.
It's only me and you today.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. Have you got any questions, buddy? Or I'll sort of call it there, mate, if you've got nothing.
Yeah, no, it's all right, mate. I'm just trying to get some time, basically, just get my head back into things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah, no.
let us know if there's anything, mate. I'm always here for it. So,
yeah.
Yeah, if there's nothing, mate, I'll call it there. But like I say, even if you just want to message me or something, mate, I'm always here for it. So, all right, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. You too, mate. Bye bye.
Ta-da.